Hi guys, I hope you're good and excited for our lesson today. Welcome back. We're still doing algebra, and today we'll be doing something quite interesting, which is positioning a surd between two integers, and those integers need to be consecutive, right? So I will be breaking down for you how it actually works, but now I want to take you into the first part of our lesson, which is me introducing you to a few words that we need to understand. All right, so guys, this is what we have. If, for example, I give you the square root of 4, would you call this a surd or not? The answer is the square root of 4 is not a surd because it gives you 2, and 2 is a whole number. So you don't have any decimals, you don't have 2 point something following you. It is a whole number. So 2, that is why the square root of 4 is not a surd. And I give you again the square root of 9. So if I give you the square root of 9, you also don't call it a surd because you know that the answer is 3. And if you also keep on moving, for example, another number that I can think of, the square root of 16. The square root of 16 is given by 4. The square root of 25 is given by 5. So as you can see, all the numbers that I've been giving you, they do not have decimals afterwards, so they don't even have a comma. All right, so that is why we do not call them a surd. So when I'm talking about surds, I'm talking about an example of the square root of let's think of a number, the square root of 18. So the square root of 18 is given by 4.246 to many more numbers afterwards. So the reason why we call these ones surds is because you have values after the comma. So you have decimals and which they keep on recurring. So if you also have the square root of, I can use 19. Right, the square root of 19 will also be 4 point something. So it does not give you a whole number. So there is now a difference between these two values because the ones on the left, you had whole numbers as your answers, but the ones on the right, that is why we call them surds, because they don't give you whole numbers. Now in this lesson we'll be doing something interesting, which is now in our first example. So the first example needs us to find two consecutive integers. So that is the key of this question. All right, two consecutive integers such that the square root of 26 lies between them. So the square root of 26, guys, that is the first part that you need to do. So the first thing that you need to do is to really understand what is the value of the square root of 26. And sometimes, you know, you won't be allowed to use a calculator. That is why you need to have a knowledge of numbers. You need to be used to values, all right, so that you can be able to understand which between which two consecutive integers does any square root lie on. Now I have the square root of 26 and is given by 5.0990 to many more numbers afterwards. And as you can see, my answer is not a whole number, so it means the square root of 26 is a surd. So if you know that the square root of 26 is 5.9, you already understand that I have to have this number between two values. So this value falls between 5 and 6, because a whole number before 5 point anything is 5, and the whole number after 5 point any value is going to definitely be 6. If you had this in a number line, you know that you'll have a 5 day, 6 day. So any 5 point anything lies between these two consecutive integers. But now how do you represent it here? This is what you do. So firstly, you need to say the square root of 25 is less than the square root of 26 and is less than the square root of 36. So someone will ask me, why do I choose these values? Because these are the values that give me 5 and 6. So this means that 5 is less than the square root of 26, which is less than the square root of 36, which is 6. So the two consecutive integers that I'm looking for is going to be 5 and 6. Okay, so this is actually where you get your points. These 3 steps. So the first step is understanding the square roots. The second step is breaking down the square roots, but you don't break down the square root of 26, which is a set. So you don't break down the set. You just break down the square roots that you know that the square root of 25 is 5, the square root of 36 gives you a 6, and the final step is writing down the two consecutive integers. So this is a question that gives you between 2 and 3 or even 5 marks depending on the level of your paper. Okay, so it is very important to break down everything that you know. All right, so to give us more energy, I have another example for us. So our second example says find two consecutive integers. So it's still, this is the key, guys. This question does not change. It is always like this. So you need to find two consecutive integers such that the square root of 18 lies between them. So we're still doing what we did on the first part. So this is a secret between me and you. Some tests don't really they will say don't use a calculator. So now you need to think that the square, before I can find another perfect square, what do I need to do? So you keep on testing each value, which takes time, right? So let's say you manage you are using a calculator for this particular test, and this is what you do. Firstly, you need to ensure that you punch in your calculator the square root of 18, and the square root of 18 is given by 4.2426, and then you have many numbers following that. Now the key here, guys, it is understanding this first value. So before 4 point anything, a whole number that you had was 4, and 4 is given by the square root of 16. And remember, we're trying to make sure that this square root of 18 is between two numbers. So we're going to write the square root of 18 there, and then look for another value which is after 4. So a value after 4 should be 5. And 5 is given by the square root of 25. Okay, so this is how we do it. And then the square root of 16 is 4, and we're saying 4 is less than the square root of 18, which is also less than the square root of 25, which is 5. So the two consecutive integers specifically, so that the square root of 18 lies between them, it is going to be 4 and 5. So guys, it does not get any difficult. This question never changes. This is what you always get. Always. If it changes, it's probably a cube root, right? So if you're given a cube root, you still do the same thing. Never leave the rules out. So you follow the same rules over and over again. Okay, so now let's try to do another question which we just think on the spot of. So you can actually also try any values that you can think of. So today I want us to try square root of a bigger number that we can think of. So here it says find two consecutive integers such that let's look for the square root of 50 now. Right, the square root of 50. So we are looking for two consecutive integers such that the square root of 50 lies between them. Now the first step never changes. Find what the square root of 50 is. The square root of 50 is given by 7.071, many numbers after that, right? And as you can see, before you reach anywhere, you know that the whole number that you had before this was 7, and 7 is given by the square root of 49. Okay, the square root of 49. Actually, on this one, you're even lucky that if you're trying to test numbers, you're trying to test a number before 50 that can give you a perfect square, and that number is 49, right? So the square root of 49 is less than the square root of 50. But now let's think of any number that can give us a perfect square. If you can think 55, 56, no, 60s, yes, we do have a perfect square on the 60s, which is 64. So the square root of 64 and 49, that is where the square root of 50 lies between. So what is the value of square root of 49? Square root of 49 is given by 7. And this is less than the square root of 50, which is less than 8. Okay, so the two consecutive numbers that you're looking for is 7 and 8. So guys, this is where your gold is. This is where your gold is. It doesn't get any difficult more than this. It is quite easy to work with this. It just needs you to practice, practice, practice. Keep on changing numbers. Keep on understanding numbers. If you understand perfect squares, if you know what gives you 2 as an answer, what gives you 3, 4, 5, and until 10 or 12, trust me, you won't even struggle to answer any of these questions. And after this, keep on practicing even your cube roots. Okay, practice on cube roots also. Any value, guys, don't be scared. Just keep on playing with numbers and you will definitely enjoy finding between which two consecutive integers does a set lie. Okay, so guys, thank you for joining me on my lesson today on finding sets, integers in which sets lie on, and definitely I will see you on the next one.